Our next question is from Matt in the Facebook group. Hi, I'm looking at switching our broadcast audio to Waves LV1, Studio One, or possibly Pro Tools. We are using Logic right now and was curious what everyone else is using. What are you using, Matt?
I'm using a Matrix off of my LV1 Classic LV1 system that I'm mixing my main front of house mix from. So it's just a Matrix send that I listened to yesterday, and we have to actually make it sound better. So
same here. Using a Matrix mix off an LV1 system. My first question is, I have a couple questions. One would be, why do you need to switch from Logic? Like, what about using Logic Pro is not working for you? And then, do you actually have a dedicated team to operate that secondary mix? So, and then we can kind of dive into these things.
I can probably answer the Logic part of it, is because it probably is time drifting on him, which is why I switched, because I used to mix my live stream in Logic and the time drift. And one of the guys mentions in this post, but the time drift got to the point where all of a sudden Logic would be 2 seconds behind my actual video stream.
Okay.
And that was a nightmare. So that was one of the main reasons I switched.
Well, that's good to know. And I don't think I never heard of that being an issue with people who usually mix in other DAWs like Ableton or Pro Tools.
Nope. I've never experienced time drift in either of those other two. So.
Okay. He added some more context. He said, we do have a budget for upgrades, and each year we're plus getting ready for new worship center. Great. I also talked to Waves about this, and they told me it's better because you're running plugins on the Wave systems, taking all the processing off of the computer for processing. The reason I'm looking at changing from Logic to LV1, Pro Tools, Studio One is because I heard from so many people, parentheses, Sweetwater, parentheses, people who want to sell me the more gear in the industry, that Logic's not really made for live streaming and recording, live mixing and recording, which I would agree.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a studio recording software.
It is my DAW in the studio. It is what I use. I just don't like it for live.
Yeah, so lagginess in the software, and issues with, I mean, Logic Pro, I don't think it's Apple's priority for development. So
I bought a copy 18 years ago, and I'm using the same $200 copy of Logic. So it's not like they're making a ton of money off of it.
Yep. So Marshall, good old Marshall, he recommends I think he was talking about Studio One, good experience there. Alistair talked about Pro Tools, good experience there. Sean already asked the question we just did, why would you want to switch? And then Matt, you may have already this is you, Matt Walcher.
Yep,
you may have come to a conclusion on this, but my vote would definitely be an LV1 setup. I'm a bit of a fanboy, yes you are, but I've used all of the options you've mentioned. And while the LV1 is the most expensive, I believe it's the most reliable of the solutions you mentioned. So we don't know anything about their front of house mix. Are you recommending though, kind of what you do of like, hey, just use LV1 for your front of house and then have your broadcasts set up on there?
No, I mean, I'm based off of the limited knowledge I have on this question. Like, he's not telling me what his front of house mix is being mixed off of. So if his front of house mix is being mixed off of an X32 and he's going to use an LV1 for his broadcast, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But if he's already got a high-end mixing solution for their main mix, and they want a secondary mixing solution for broadcast, they don't want to mix it on the same mixer, and they, like you said, they have the person to mix that secondary mix, then I think the LV1 is a better solution than trying to mix in a DAW live. It's designed to mix live. Like, even though it's still a software-based solution, you get a fit controller, if you can afford the LV1 Classic, obviously, but if all you need is, you don't necessarily need the I/O. If it's a broadcast solution, the I/O is the most expensive part of a LV1 solution that's not the LV1 Classic. So if all you need is a server and a computer to run the LV1 software, and you're just going to Dante to Waves sound the bridge, Dante bridge into the LV1, I love that as a solution. It's not the cheap solution.
Yeah, it's going to get kind of expensive. Like, again, this is why we're missing context of like,
Yes.
how are you capturing audio right now? Are you using like Allen and Heath? Great. If you have an Allen Heath SQ with a stage box set up, then you still will have to buy a Waves card for that SQ to then route the audio. It's a little bit.
If you don't have the space for a Waves card and you already have a Dante card and you're using the Dante card, you need the Dante Waves sound bridge. Like I just mentioned, that's like $3,000. So it's not cheap.
Yep. You probably couldn't go off of like. Oh, actually, the Proton Duo, is that not enough horsepower for a full mix?
No.
Okay. So you'd have to do at least probably the 1C compact.
Probably
lightweight.
the 1C. If you're not doing too much plugins wise, you could probably get away with it. It's all budget. Depends on what he says. He has a budget. I don't know what that budget is, but I like I said, I'm a fanboy of the Wave system. So
again, my big caveat when it comes to broadcast mix solutions and stuff, to me, I would just want to know so much more about the context of your entire system. Because like there's some churches that I'd be like, let's go spend $10,000 on an LV1 Classic for our broadcast mix, where we still have like 5-second reverb in our room because we don't have any treatment in our room.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Like that's a big problem. And don't go spending a bunch of money on Band-Aids to underlying causes like bad acoustics in a room, bad PA, not tuned properly. I would rather if you have like a good acoustic treatment and a nice PA and it's tuned properly, you don't need a secondary console for a broadcast mix, especially if you're a small to mid-sized church, and getting a secondary console for your church is going to make your mix sound like 2 to 5% better. It's like
we come across this a lot is you've got 1 or 2 good sound guys in your church, and you've got 2 or 3 other sound guys in your church, and they're not that they're bad, they're just inexperienced and they're learning, right?
Yep.
And so what do? We put the good sound guys on our front of house mix, and we put the learning guys on our broadcast mix, and now we end up with a broadcast mix that never sounds good. Yep. And so in those scenarios, I would rather have a good matrix mix that my front of house guy can solo and listen into once in a while to make sure that it still, looks good. That he manages, rather than a bad sound guy, like you said, spending a ton of money so a bad sound guy can make a bad mix on a secondary expensive system. Yep.
So as usual, hopefully this gives you guys some insight on this type of solution, but we need more context. We need to hear more about your situation. Go to churchfront.com/premium. Be a member today. You can actually hop on a call with Matt or another one of our coaches and talk through your situation, create the right solution for it. I feel like half the time people are like, hey, I need this. And then you're like, tell me more about your church. And they do. And then we're like, actually, you need this, this, and this before you need what you came to us for.
Yeah, so I actually had a girl hop on a call just last week, and she was wondering about lights and microphones. And lights was the thing she brought up first. And then she sent me pictures of her lighting setup, and they had a ton of lights. They weren't super expensive lights, but it wasn't a very big room. And I'm like, honestly, I wouldn't spend a penny more on lights until you've learned about lighting and lighting theory and how to light your stage well and blend your lights and try and get rid of those hot spots you're talking about and the dark spots that you're talking about. Do that before you spend a dime on lights. Use what you have first. And then she showed me pictures of her microphones, because that's the other. She's like, we got 8 wireless microphones and they're dropping out in other rooms. And it's like, okay, well, they had 8 BLX Shure BLX systems, and they're trying to actually use them in one space and be able to walk into another room and use them in another space. So I'm like, well, that's a struggle for a really good wireless system. Even the ULX will struggle trying to walk into a completely different space where you don't have an antenna.
Yeah.
But you get a BLX system, it is not going to work if you're walking into other spaces. And so I recommended she upgrade basically all of her BLX systems, because you can't even put antennas on those. So, go get at least up to a system that you can put an antenna on so you can do some antenna management. But yeah, that's kind of the point, is until you know how to use what you have, don't just answer your issues by spending money.
Yep. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.